Well, I like going fast, and I think my dad realized pretty early on, it's like, we better slap a helmet on him. So.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Louisiana Farm Bureau Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Wiggers, and today we are joined by Matt Sirgo. Matt started at Farm Bureau a couple years after I did, but we've been kind of going through this adventure together at Farm Bureau, and today we're going to talk about safety and how you got plugged into that.
Yep. Excited to talk about it.
Started a couple years ago?
Yeah. Started August of 2018 . So been learning a lot.
I'm saying you started in safety a couple years ago.
Started in just a few.
The journey of safety. So I wanted to I had this idea because we've had you on the podcast. You've talked with Wendell Miley, your boss, one of the senior most members of our team, and he's been around safety for 30 plus years. So have you.
Yep.
You're not quite 30, are you?
32, actually.
32. So yeah, probably 30-ish years you've been around safety because you were raised around four-wheelers and dirt bikes and motorcycles and all these things.
Yep.
Tell me about when you first were exposed to some of those types of machinery.
So, I mean, as early as I can remember, my dad has always been very hands-on, very gifted mechanically, taught me pretty much everything I know. So I had four-wheelers since I was a kid. We'd go to hunting camps and I'd ride little dirt bikes here and there. The first dirt bike I can remember, really, if you want to call it that, is a Honda Trail 70, and loved that. But ever since I was a kid, we grew up around machinery, things that can hurt us. My dad always emphasized, how to be safe, when to work on things, how to make sure that even if you're lifting something, how to do it correctly so you can do it for your whole life. Yeah.
So it was not a thing that you learned all of a sudden when you started at Farm Bureau and said, oh, you're supposed to wear a helmet when you get on a four-wheeler.
Right.
That was not at all.
No, that was ingrained in me from a very early age.
Which is impressive, to be honest. As a kid who was raised around them at a farm, I was not.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, I was not raised like to put a helmet on every time when I rode dirt bikes at my cousin's house or four-wheelers, we would wear helmets there. But at the farm to ride and go check some water in a field in the back, that was not a common thing that we thought of, and it wasn't forefront. And I'm not proud of that. It's just the reality.
Right.
But for you, that was second nature for you.
Yeah. Well, I like going fast, and I think my dad realized pretty early on, it's like, we better slap a helmet on him. So,
so you started at an early age being aware of the importance for a helmet and be like handling things safely. But how, I guess, has that evolved as you became your own self? Because at a certain point, your dad's not watching you get on a dirt bike. Your dad's not watching you get on a motorcycle. Where did that become, I guess, evident that like this is not just this is not an accessory I may or may not put on. This is a must.
I think ultimately it came down to a passion, especially for riding, where I want to do this for as long as I possibly can. And I have seen firsthand, just in my instructor role, the consequences of not doing that. And it can end, best case scenario with some of these accidents, it ends your riding career. Worst case scenario, it alters your life forever, or you lose your life. So for me, it's an easy thing that takes a couple extra seconds, and it's not a guarantee, but it gives you a fighting chance.
Yeah. You just mentioned this instructor role. We're going to come back to that.
Yep.
But when did you really become are you a motorcycle guy? I know you have a truck, you have a pickup truck, but you have a motorcycle also. What would you say is your primary mode of transportation?
I drive my truck around for work, but I absolutely love riding when I can help it, especially in the cooler parts of the year. You'll catch me riding all the time.
Was there a season of life where you were a motorcycle only guy?
Pretty much college is where I really got into it. I was riding every day, pretty much all day. I had a car and maybe put, 1,000 miles on it every couple of months. And really from a motorcycle, I was just wearing it out as often as I can. So
so that was a season that you really leaned into it.
Cut my teeth with it, so to speak.
When did you? So for anyone that doesn't know this, I know this, and if you've listened to other podcasts in the past with Matt, you probably know this. But Matt also is an instructor with the Louisiana State Police, which is kind of a big deal in my opinion. I think that's pretty ballin'.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah. So
how did that happen?
So actually, it happened because my dad actually got the instructor role first. So when I first wanted to ride on the public street, my dad had learned about this program. It's through the Department of Public Safety underneath the State Police. And what it is the basic rider course, or the BRC as we call it, is a way for the general public to go out and get their motorcycle endorsement over the course of a weekend. We give you a card with it, with your name on it, same thing that I got. Go to the DMV and just pay the money for the endorsement. But they take you through all the steps of riding, at least for a beginner role. And when I took that, my dad really loved it. My sister went through it. He ended up becoming an instructor and told me, he's like, you have to go and do this. And went through.
You have to go and do the course if you're going to ride. Is that what he was saying?
I went through the course, but once he became an instructor, he was like, you have to go and do this.
Oh, go and be an instructor.
Yes. Yeah. So the course to become an instructor is about 4 weekends long. And then I've been doing that for probably 8 or 9 years, I think. So it's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. It's just fantastic.
So you're teaching, I guess, peers or citizens, just motorists, how to be a good motorcycle rider?
Yes. So we do the basic, the intermediate, and the advanced. So most of the time what I'm doing is I'm teaching just the general public for $100 over the course of an entire weekend how to ride. We take you from this is how a clutch works to the second day where you're doing figure eights and you're not even thinking about it anymore.
When do we start popping wheelies?
That's in the intermediate to advanced course, yeah.
As a joke, everyone. Yeah. So you're working through a weekend with, first-time riders or people that maybe rode dirt bikes on the farm and wanting to get on the highways with them. That's kind of what it is?
You see all kinds. I've taught upwards of 82-year-olds all the way down to 16-year-olds.
Cool.
We've seen all kinds of different things.
That's fascinating. Could I come do it?
Absolutely.
You think I'd be a good rider?
I think so. Actually, Wendell's taking it October 4th and 5th, so I finally won him over. I was like, dude, it's a weekend. Come take it. So
it's just money, Wendell.
I told him I already got a leather vest with his name on it.
You got to put some patches on it.
Oh, yeah.
The Farm Bureau biker gang.
Yep.
I don't know. We can come up with something cool. Probably more creative than that.
Yep.
So you were doing that before you came to Louisiana Farm Bureau.
I was.
I guess, how exciting is it to now get to use your expertise, your background in safety to now help Louisiana farmers and ranchers? 'Cause I know you were not raised around farmers and ranchers, I'm assuming.
Nope.
So now you're getting to interact with this whole new demographic, this whole new population that's so important that we all love and appreciate.
Absolutely.
And you're getting to help keep them safe.
It's fantastic because I was doing it before I got hired with Farm Bureau, and it became one of the things in my interview that I think helped get me the job. And I was able to throw myself into it very quickly. So trying to learn all the language and the nomenclature, I didn't grow up around farms and ranches, but grew up in the country. So I knew a little bit, but had a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great things that I've been able to do is kind of learn by doing and grow my expertise as you make a lot of mistakes. You'll make mistakes in instructing. The important thing I've always said is to stop if you make a mistake, acknowledge it, and let them know. It legitimizes you as an instructor and lets them know, like, we're not perfect. We're always learning.
Right. And I mean, obviously one of the big things that Wendell was has been involved in for those 30 years I was talking about earlier is ATV safety. And that's one of the things that I feel like is one of the biggest areas that Louisiana Farm Bureau is focused on because of Wendell and his experience there. Because he was doing trainings just like you do with ATV safety 30 years ago.
Right.
I mean, even probably in the 80s. I don't want to date
80s.
Wendell, but I know it goes back a long ways where he was doing these trainings in schools or at parks and stuff. Yep. So that's been a thing that's been part of us, and it's not far going from ATV safety to motorcycle safety. There's probably a lot of overlap there for you.
So, in fact, they're pretty much sister organizations. So I work for MSF, or Motorcycle Safety Foundation, is the course. And then Wendell was teaching the ASI, or ATV Safety Institute. The language is done the same. MSF basically helped craft a lot of that curriculum for ATVs. So it's very interchangeable.
Wow.
And having grown up on ATVs, it's great that it's one of the bigger programs that we do. We do it from everywhere from, fifth graders. We talk with high school kids. That's really been a rewarding part of my career.
Yeah, and it probably didn't take you long to ramp that up.
No.
You were ready.
Yep,
I was ready. Probably
to
hit the ground running. Did you hit how soon after you started did you do your first ATV training?
Oh, it wasn't long. I think within my first couple of months, maybe if I started in August, I think by October was the program we do in Leesville all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Wendell brought me out to that one and started to learn his speech and then kind of start to make my own changes to it and my own adaptations with my experience, ways to just update it a little bit.
Yeah. I think what's cool and as someone who I already have professed to not have been the guy wearing a helmet a lot, I think it's cool to see someone, and no knock on Wendell, but someone that's, our age, or I mean, almost a peer to these high schoolers, and you're a cool guy. You ride motorcycles, but hey, it's cool to also wear helmets and be safe so you can ride for a long time, like you said. What's been one of the biggest, I guess, what are some of those takeaways? I've said helmet a lot. We've talked about helmets a lot. I know that's a huge thing, but what are some of the big takeaways for when you talk about ATV safety, like that people need to make sure they remember?
So the biggest one is going to be, we always start each class by telling them, keep them off the public highway. That's 3/4 of all the fatalities in the state. We kind of mirror the national statistic, and we keep clippings of all of it. So I show all of my, people who attend my course whenever we go through that. These are all the fatalities. They're people that we've, again, done this program where kids in high school know exactly the clipping I'm talking about because they rodeoed together. That happened a couple of years ago. The next biggest thing is going to be wearing a helmet. And we like to take them through the process of good riding gear and showing them, as I like to say, when you put all the gear together, you're dangerously close to looking like you know what you're doing. And it kind of looks cooler. You show them, it's like, this is a nice setup. You look better than just putting on a bicycle helmet and big goofy glasses. Like, this just looks better. And it's safer.
Yeah. So. You mentioned, staying off the roads. And there are just times, and we both know this, on a farm, you have to get on the road to get to another field, to get,
absolutely,
to get to a different part of the farm, to get to the grain bins or wherever you're going. And that's just a reality.
It is.
And I guess, what are some things to take into precaution? Like, obviously, we don't want to just say, hey, free pass, get on the highway if you're using it for the farm.
Yeah.
Because I've been using it for the farm before too.
Right.
But what are some things that if we are having to get on the highway, to make sure of?
So if you absolutely have to, and it does happen in agricultural applications, the biggest thing to remember is that the motoring public is just simply not looking out to see you. They don't recognize you. I can tell you that from many, many, many years of riding, even with my bright colors and my flashing lights going, look at me, it's hard for me to be seen in the best scenarios. So when it comes to four-wheelers, there's such a speed difference as well that it takes drivers a lot longer to recognize that is a four-wheeler and we're going at a different speed. And a lot of times lights are skewed. They don't work anymore. We've all been around four-wheelers that are so caked up with mud, even if they have a brake light, you can't see it.
Right.
So being mindful, if you're on those public highways, try to be on the shoulder. Definitely try to do it when it's not a heavy traffic time. And then just try to be deliberate. Try to look behind you a whole bunch, and just know that the second you go out on a public highway, whether you need to or not, it is an extremely dangerous place to be. So, know that you're always at that disadvantage.
One thing I would say, as someone who's been around it and done it, is get on the road for as little as possible.
Yep.
Like, if you can go down the side of a field on the other side of the ditch from the highway is a little bit, and you have to cross that road for 100 yards, and you can go down that field for 80 of those yards, and then cross the road for just 20 yards, and it makes a lot less time on the highway. It's a lot less exposure to that risk. I think that's one of the things that there's always the opportunity. Is it quicker to jump on the road and go? Yes, it's probably a little less bumpy, but it's safety, and I think that's the thing to remember there.
Yeah. Well, and your ATV is going to act better off-road too. They're not designed to be on heavy traction environments.
Yeah.
We talk about, and I show this to a lot of students that come and go through our different talks that we do. The tires, the high center of gravity, when you start adding really high friction environments, it changes that center of gravity all of a sudden to the smallest inputs. So not only is it better to limit the time you're on the public road for, the chance of being hit by a vehicle, but also just that fact of you making a mistake in your normal riding that can cause an accident. That's another thing people don't realize.
Yeah. Anything specific with UTVs, talking about side-by-sides or anything like that we need to keep in mind, I guess, for anyone listening that has one of those. Said, well, I've retired the four-wheeler. I've graduated to a nice little side-by-side. Anything there?
Side-by-sides are fantastic. I love them. They are definitely more like cars. So I always like to make a difference between the two. Your ATV is going to act more like a dirt bike or a motorcycle, meaning that you're a part of the way that the machine handles. So your act of moving around on that ATV is going to dictate how it operates. Most side-by-sides, you get in them and it's just like a car. You don't really think about you moving around.
You don't have to lean with it as much.
Exactly. You have a steering wheel, you have normal pedals. The biggest thing we talk to them about, though, is making sure you wear a seatbelt, just like in a vehicle. Because in the event of a rollover, where we might see, say you're going up a hill, four-wheeler, if it rolls on top of you, is probably going to roll once on top of you and then continue to roll under good circumstances. So you'll be crushed for a second, but there's a higher chance of it continuing to roll back off of you.
And leaving you on the ground.
A side-by-side, what can happen in those rollovers and those turnovers is that your extremities or anything you care about, your neck, your arms, your legs, they tend to come flying out as it starts to tumble, and they tend to stick into the ground more. So that roll cage that's meant to protect you can also pin an appendage and keep you down into the dirt. By wearing a seatbelt, it's going to keep you inside of that cage of safety until you come to a nice halt. Yeah. It's going to keep you safer.
Are you still supposed to wear a helmet inside of an ATV or inside of a UTV, side by side? Because you got the roll cage protecting your head, right?
You do. You do definitely still want to wear a helmet, and you can take that from the auto racing world, because in the event of an accident, your head is going to be bouncing around like crazy. So, you're going to have a high chance of actually impacting the same point over and over and over again, which can lead to skull fractures. In dirt bike accidents, you tend to see more of a rotational injury, so you're not going to impact the same place as many times. But in those places where you're confined inside of a cage, there's a high chance of you hitting that same point over and over and over again in the course of an accident.
You're making me not want to get on on any of these machines now.
Hey, I still ride them all the time, so they're fun.
So ATVs, UTVs, that's one of the topics for the National Farm Health and Safety Week.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
National Farm Safety and Health Week.
Safety and Health Week. I almost got it. That's actually this week right now, and every day there's a topic. One of those days is ATV, UTV safety. We have a video on that. It's a short video. You've probably heard way more useful stuff here, but we should also say there are webinars out there for all of these days' topics. I know there's generational farming, there's confined spaces, which we're going to talk about here in a second, because that's something else that Farm Bureau is very involved in. But there's, a lot of different areas that, this safety week has themes for every day. So we can find that. I'll link that in the show notes so everybody can go and find those webinars for those days and those topics. But ATV and UTV safety is, I think, Thursday.
Yes, I believe
sounds
so.
Right. And then Fridays, confined spaces, or Wednesdays, confined spaces. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's one of them.
The links will be in the description. You'll know. But confined spaces, grain bin safety, small space, lockout, tag out. Let's go there, because I know that's one of the things that Louisiana Farm Bureau has put a lot of effort in, especially over the last probably 12 years, doing these grain bin safeties. We've had fatalities, we've had rescues. How important is that particular training for us to pay attention to, especially as more and more grain bins are going up across the state?
It's incredibly important. Like you said, because the technology has come such a long way, and farmers now have that ability to put those grain bins on their personal farms, you're seeing a lot more entrapments. And it does change year to year. If you have a dry year, there's not really as high of a chance or a reason for a farmer to get into a bin. So you're going to have less entrapments. It doesn't mean that they're not happening. It's just they're also tied environmentally. But that program, Wendell has done a fantastic job over the 12 years that it's been going on to build it to what it is today. So it's very much a joint partnership with Mississippi Farm Bureau. We definitely could not do it without them. Benton Mosley and Matt Hammonds, they're fantastic instructors. And really my role there is I just help them out where I can. They're really experts that do this all the time. And they've taught me so much to where I can teach the classroom portion of it and just help where I need to.
Yeah, and they have this awesome trailer, which is a huge resource.
They do.
That we can really get hands-on with it. It's not just a classroom.
Correct. Yeah, it's a trailer that's, very, very mobile. They pull it with an F-250. And actually part of their grant is with neighboring states to go and help them. So we're extremely lucky in the fact that we have a partner that's our neighbor that wants to help as much as they do. We have a fantastic relationship with them. If you've never seen that program, I can't recommend it enough. It's very eye-opening to both ag producers as well as the fire departments that we teach it to.
That's one of the things I was going to talk about. There are definitely things that farmers and folks that work on the farm or around grain bins will learn at that training. But there's also, I would say, the majority of people that are coming are firefighters or first responders, right?
Absolutely.
How important is that? Because they're the ones that are going to be responding. I mean, yes, your coworkers, somebody from a neighboring facility might come there and be there, but there's going to be a lot of first responders. There's going to be a lot of flashing lights around there.
It is. It is going to be an all hands on deck call if you ever have an entrapment, and it's going to take a long time. So we talked to the first responders about that, and we help expose them to the specifics of agriculture, the dangers that are there, what might be around those bins, why it's built the way that it is, why it's constructed this way. Letting them know about fans that could be kicked on if the person's submerged past their head. Try to get some airflow. It's something that they wouldn't think of unless they're exposed to it, just because they're lucky they grew up with agriculture, but some haven't. So, we bring them up to speed with some of that. So in the event of that entrapment, they know some more of the specifics that can help make a successful rescue.
Well, you talked about the classroom portion, how you probably are up to speed on teaching that.
What are some of the big takeaways that you always tell farmers if you had 3 minutes with a farmer who's saying, I'm about to go get in the grain bin this afternoon?
Yep.
What are some of the things you always make sure to tell them?
So the biggest ones that we like to talk about are going to be make sure you have lockout, tagout procedures in place. The reason being is that if you go up inside that bin and you're by yourself, that's great. But say somebody comes in and wants to unload some grain, they kick on an auger, they're not going to hear you yelling. It's way too loud. So having that procedure in place lets people know on the ground, hey, somebody is in that bin. If you have some people with you, it's even better because then you can have a spotter up top for you as well.
For real, just real quick.
Yeah.
Lockout, tag out. Essentially, you're putting a tag.
Mhm.
You're locking the ability to turn on that auger.
Yes.
While you are the one with that, right?
You are the
Is that
one
how
with
that
the
works?
key. Yeah. So basically, it's not a simple just zip tie that you're going to put on there that somebody can come in and cut. It's going to be a lock or something that you have a key to that somebody's going to walk up to and go, I can't get into this, or I can't.
And you have the key with you in the grain bin potentially.
Right. Or somebody that knows that you're there.
Yeah.
That kind of thing too.
Yeah. So lockout, tag out is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Having a spotter, you mentioned that. If you can, I don't think you should personally, if you can avoid it, ever do this by yourself.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the biggest things I remember I've heard is avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
Getting in the tank in the first place.
Yeah. If you can avoid it, that's fantastic. Sometimes circumstances definitely make you have to enter the bin. And there it's important to make sure you tell people, hey, I'm going into this bin right now. Bring some people with you. Make sure you tie off as well. Have a tie off point.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be some crazy 6-point harness that costs $500. It can be as simple as just tying off with an extension, something that's going to prevent you from being sucked down into the grain.
And also would give you a point to hold on to.
Exactly.
That
Give you
grain
something
moves
to grab.
quick.
It does. You can't outswim it. You can't kick your feet and run away from it like a lot. There's
like
all kinds of
quicksand.
different things. Yeah, absolutely. It's very much like quicksand.
On a rescue point, one thing I want to talk about, and I want to give kudos to Louisiana Farm Bureau for, it started years ago, but these grain rescue tubes that are, life and death.
Yeah.
Like having those make a rescue happen. And those now are all across the state.
Yes.
And how important is that piece of equipment and an auger, of course, to go with it?
Yeah.
How important are those in this equation of a rescue or an entrapment?
It's one of the most important pieces of equipment you can have. If you think about it, what you're doing is you're isolating that person from the weight of that grain. So as you build that tube around the victim, in the best case scenario, if they're upright, you're going to start at the back and build equally all the way around. And once that final panel goes on, what you've done is separate that victim from the rest of the bin. So it's going to relieve a lot of pressure, and it's going to also allow you to start extricating a lot of that grain or whatever's in there away from that person to where they can eventually free themselves, or you can get down in there and free them. Because once it gets past their knees, you can't just tie a rope on them and pull them out. You're going to break their back. You're going to cause huge traumatic injuries. So you have to get that tube in there and build it around them.
And now the Louisiana Farm Bureau has a map. And I think not just us, but first responders, 911 operators. Am I right?
Yes. So this is where Wendell Miley, my director, is going to get a bunch of kudos again, because he built this fantastic sheet that has got make, names, contact information, locations of these grain bin tubes all across the state.
Phone numbers.
That's
the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah. There's a map as well that shows it with dots, but we also shared it with 911 operators across the state. So when a call comes in, that 911 operator is going to know exactly where that sheet is. Okay, where's it located? Great. This is the manufacturer of it. The reason why that's important, and if you're going to purchase one of these tubes, talk with a neighboring parish, because if it's the same manufacturer, they're plug and play. Why would you do that? Well, if you have multiple entrapments, if you have, say, the Great Wall, and the neighboring parish has a Great Wall, you can continue to build it as large as you need for your specific case scenario.
So you might want 3 tubes to come there if they're all the same parts.
Exactly.
You can build a bigger circle, a bigger space for the rescue. That's cool. I've never thought about that. But what's really awesome is the map idea, or just the phone number. Like you see, okay, I am in, I'm just trying to think of a parish. I'm in Grant Parish. I need to find where the closest, you can pretty much just look and draw a circle and say, okay, there's 3-4 tubes. Okay, let me start making phone calls to these neighboring grain facilities, farmers, fire departments, whatever it may be. And that 911, is it the 911 operator then that is trying to coordinate that?
They're going to help
How does that
coordinate
work?
it. Yeah. So they're going to basically get the call and then, locate where the emergency is happening. And then if it's specific, they'll say grain bin entrapment. And since that document has been shared, they'll be able to go straight to the Excel sheet and go, okay, well, I know that this parish is neighboring, we've got these tubes that can get there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's really awesome. I know that recently happened. That's happened multiple times in the past couple of years, and that's really cool. It's not cool that that happens. It's cool to see that working and that system in place where we say, okay, there's a fire department in Franklin Parish. This accident's in Richland Parish, but Franklin Parish is on their way with this tool. And I think that's really great to see that kind of thing happen. Anything else about grain bin entrapments, about some of the things you've learned and you've experienced teaching this and helping coordinate these trainings?
Yeah. So, the biggest difference when it comes to a rescue is going to be, we teach two methods, the above grain entrapment and then the below grain entrapment. So whenever we do that, sometimes we'll also bring panels for the fire department to put on their turnout gear, bring their K-12 saws, go ahead and cut that V and get that simulation. We try to use the bottom panels because grain bins, they get thicker as they go farther down. So we like to let the fire departments cut whenever we have that option. It's not always working out that way, but it's a fun one to watch.
It's also it's wild.
It is.
It's a lot of sparks and it's a lot of noise. But I can only imagine what that's like in the real event, like where you need that and you're actually cutting grain out. And
it's a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, Matt, thank you so much. Again, if anybody's listening to this and saying, I want to learn more about grain bin safety, I want to learn more about ATV safety or any of these other safety topics that are going to be covered this week, the links in the show notes, and you can find all those. But also, if you're interested in grain bin and some of this stuff we've talked about with grain bin, we've done numerous stories for this week in Louisiana agriculture about this. We've done stories on rescues. We've done stories on the trainings themselves. So we have a whole playlist that we'll put in the show notes so people can learn more about that. Is the map somewhere we can find it? Somewhere people can look at it? So farmers or facilities could have that map?
Yeah, the map should be on our website, lafarmbureau.org.
I'll put that on there as well in the show notes. But anything else you want to learn about safety? Matt's your guy. He's one of your guys. We have a team here at Farm Bureau that's talking about safety and working on this program. So thank you for all you do for Farm Bureau. Thank you for telling some of your story about growing up with a dirt bike and four-wheelers always nearby, because I know that's what shaped who you are and how you approach this safety mindset that you have. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Farm Bureau Podcast. We'll see you next time right here.